So, welcome everyone to this week's episode of Social Chatter. My name is Christian Karasevich. You can follow me at CKROKS. I'm the founder of Social Chefs, and my goal with my business is to help teach you social media marketing, to help you cook up winning recipes for your business, whether that's if you're a restaurant or you're a retailer or you run a yoga and Pilates studio. My aim is to help give you the inside track on social media marketing. And what I do with that is I like to hold this weekly blab where I basically go over what's new, what's hot in social media for the week. And I share a couple of tools that I use either myself or that have just recently launched that I think can be very valuable for business owners. So this week we have quite a number of tools, and my co-host Vincent Orlek, he's going to be joining as well. But if you have any questions during the show, you can either leave them here off to the side. You can tweet me at CKROKS. You can also tweet me at Social Chefs. Also, Mr. Vincent Orlek, you can tweet him as well. Let me see what his Twitter handle is. I think it's Not a Guru. Let me see. Actually, it's twitter.com/Vincent Orlek. Yes, at Vincent Orlek, actually, yes. And so, if you have any questions, feel free to do that. And you can also include hashtag social chatter. And I will take the time to answer any questions that you have. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick off the first topic. Vincent just told me, he said, hey, I'm going to be joining in a second. He was a little bit late. So topic number one for today, it is pretty nice, actually. So Twitter, previously they had Twitter, and then they launched Vine, and then they've launched Periscope. Periscope is another live streaming video tool. And, when you got started using, say, Vine, you can log in with Twitter, but they were really distinct separate apps. And Periscope was virtually the same way when it came out. Well, fortunately, Twitter is now going to be incorporating Periscope broadcasts in your Twitter feed. And this is actually pretty awesome because now if somebody is on Periscope and they're following your audio, that's a great way for them to connect with you. But at the same time, if you've got an audience that's engaged on Twitter and they are following you there as well, they will be able to see your Periscopes and they will be able to jump right into them, basically giving them an immersive experience. And this is I think it's a really big step for Twitter to kind of bring these couple of things together because, hold on one second, let me pull on Vincent. Good afternoon, Vincent.
Yeah. Woo! How's it going, Christian? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, great. Sorry about that, man.
Oh, no worries. I know what I was actually wondering, was there something going on with Blab? Because I had a whole bunch of people subscribe and then people showed up and then everything kind of just disappeared. So wasn't sure if there's something going on.
Oh, well, that stinks, but we'll get through it. Yeah, no, I just, when I went to log on, it had me back like I'm a new person again.
Yeah, they could be, you and I talked about this earlier in the week, maybe they were working on something, some adjustments and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I've already gone through our intro. I just briefly touched on our first topic today, by the way, and that was Periscope broadcast within Twitter.
Yeah.
And, and I started off, I'm telling everybody that's watching here, that I think that, this is actually a pretty big step for Twitter because when Vine first came out, everything was completely separate. Periscope came out, everything was completely separate. You had to manage different apps. You logged in with Twitter. It really kind of didn't seem like they were looking to build the relationship.
Right.
Periscope now, being available in the Twitter stream, I think that's going to be a really good move for Twitter. I want to get your thoughts because I like this. I like the fact that I can go to Twitter now and, jump into someone's scope from within, the Twitter feed. What do you think, though? You think this is a good move?
Yeah, I definitely do. It's going to matter how users use it, and also the kind of the UX that Twitter implements. In a lot of the conversations I've had with folks, friends in the industry and stuff, it feels like there's two sides. There's one group that is finds it annoying and potential nuisance to see all these videos, live videos popping up in their Twitter streams.
Right.
And if someone's constantly doing a Periscope feed and it's popping up, they may turn them off. But then there's another side of, and this is the side I happen to be on, where it's really not that different from what you see now with video appearing in your feed. I don't think it's gonna be that much different. There may be more of it. I guess it depends on who you're following. Yeah, who you're following and how much your particular people that you follow are using Periscope. I mean, I used it today for our company. We did a home office tour, and I mean, I didn't get a chance to see what it looks like in the feed. I'm assuming it came up for some people in the feed, but I mean, that's a great exposure tool. Because before it was, I mean, you're much more likely to stick on a Periscope feed if it's appearing there in front of your face rather than needing to click on it to see what it is. I honestly don't remember I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've clicked on a Periscope feed link in a tweet, as opposed to now if I'm going to see it in the feed, like it's going to draw me in. There's more of a potential for it to draw me in. It's funny because it goes back to, remember, was it a few weeks ago or maybe even a couple months ago now, there was a resizing issue with Twitter, with the images and what they're doing with the posts, the resizing of the posts.
Right.
And it felt like at the time it was more so for Vine.
Right.
And I mean, I think it's for all of it. I think it's for all of it. I think it's going to make it easier to see all of those things. But how about you?
I think that actually makes a lot of sense. I think, that's absolutely right. When people first saw that, they immediately jumped to Vine, because I don't think people were thinking that, they're going to start doing this for Periscope as well. Personally, I think that it's, if you look at how we're sort of conditioned, if I go to Facebook and I'm looking through my feed, most of the time I'm going to see videos, photos. I'm going to see all these different types of media showing up in my feed. I'm going to hop over to Instagram. Same thing. I'm going to see photos and videos. It's not as much, but you got a couple of different types of content you're going to see there. So I don't really think that, having a scope inside a Periscope inside of the Twitter stream is going to be an issue. It actually also gives me a little more, what's the word? A number of months ago, Twitter removed the ability to have videos expanded natively, to have them expanded within the stream. And I think now we're starting to understand why they did this. Because they obviously had their own products. I want to say they're almost probably going to be taking a page out of Facebook's book here and starting to come out with their own products and kind of, push users to use their products versus pulling in these third-party tools such as, say like a YouTube, or Google Hangout or something like that, and other types of media. So I'm excited about this. I think that it's kind of been a long time coming here. I think that it is going to be a very good move. I think that's also, if you kind of put it into perspective, with the, possibly a 10,000 character count on Twitter. I'm actually thinking maybe this would we even see maybe a notes platform from Twitter to be able to have 10,000 characters and maybe include your scopes or something like that.
Well, and we didn't have a chance to talk about that together because I had to miss last week. But for what it's worth, the 10,000 character thing, again, I don't know that that's even going to really change the feed very much, if at all.
Right. Unless it's part of a bigger product.
Yeah, well, I think it's just going to be a read more type thing, and you're still going to see the same tweets. And if there's more to it, or if that's like the headline that you can provide, the lead, and then you can hit read more, and then you go to like a separate tweet that's a huge post, it's different. You're taken somewhere else other than your feed. So I don't see it being a problem. It seems like that's what they're talking about with the prototyping of it, but until it actually comes out, we don't know, of course. But I don't know I could not see Twitter, especially the way they're going now with all these new things that seem to be improvements, that they would be dumb enough to put tweets with 10,000 character limits that show up in your feed like that. There's no way. There's just no way.
Right. Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I mean, I had actually referenced a blog post that had 10,000 characters, and it was pretty nuts to see how long it was. It was, it really made me think like, okay, like who's going to put this into a tweet? There's got to be some, unless they're going to create like Twitter notes or something.
Yeah.
That would make sense to have that and then have it, condensed and then have you expand it. That would be awesome. But I don't know. I'm not gonna write 10,000 characters on Twitter. I'd rather write that on my own blog.
Right. But now the fact that Twitter and Google are playing nice now, there's maybe an SEO factor with that, where if you do you take a blog post and put it in a tweet that's up to 10,000 characters, does that then get indexed as its own web page like a Google Plus post does?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's where they're going with that, and maybe that's why Google. I mean, then it ties into the whole. Well, Google's getting rid of, or has gotten rid of essentially G Plus, and they're really working tight with Twitter now. And are those two going to come together? And Twitter's going to provide the same functionality that G Plus kind of did. So it's really interesting. This year I think is going to be a really big year in terms of Twitter's future.
I think it's actually going to be. It's not just going to be a banner year with that. I think it kind of has to be.
Yeah.
As a Twitter investor and whatnot as well. Like if you look at what their current stock price is, it's very, very, very low right now. It's in the high teens, and I think that they're going to have to do something to turn the ship around. And I think that actually is a theme that we kind of had on our show each week. Twitter's got to do something to kind of make them to make some adjustments. So.
Yep.
So by the way, if anybody that's on the show, if you have any questions or anything, or you want to jump on and discuss any of these topics with us, feel free to. We would love to have you on. Okay, we got Kevin. We'll bring Kevin in.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey Kevin.
How are you?
Good. So I've been doing a lot of chatting with other social media guys and a lot of research on this 10,000 character thing, and the overarching thing I'll say is there's two main things. Is we really don't know what it's going to do until we see the actual implementation.
Right.
Like, because we're theorizing a lot based off of what we can piece together. But the overarching thing is kind of funny to me is Twitter continues to do features and to put features out there that cause people to ask, what the heck are they doing? Mm-hmm. And yet they continue to not implement features that people are requesting. So, for example, I don't know about you guys, but I'd love to be able to get authenticated. I've been on the platform for a very, very long time, and it would be very easy to authenticate me. I would actually pay to be authenticated. And yet they don't add that feature in, which would allow you to then weed out a lot of the spam issue and to connect at a deeper level when you're actually connecting with an individual. But if you guys are interested, I broke down the 10K piece into issues that I see with it, why they might be doing it, and then similarities or partially kind of why might fall into are they doing it because of Medium? Are they trying to be more like LinkedIn Pulse? Are they trying to be more like what's the Facebook
Notes?
Well, not Notes, but there's the corporate version, Instant Articles.
Oh.
And from a corporate, so you could say, is it because they're trying to be more like that? Is it Vincent? You were saying, maybe Google. Except for the problem is that Mark Traphagen had done a lot of research on this, and they're indexing 3 to 5% of that stuff right now. And one of Google's big things is quality of content. I mean, I actually do search engine optimization is my primary job function. And so you would have to sit there and think most of the content, even in 10,000 characters, is not going to be
Not gonna be
quality.
good.
No, it's not going to be good. And it's going to be highly duplicative. So it's not going to be something that they're going to want to add into their index by and large outside of maybe real time. So maybe it would give them more information real time. But what if Twitter was using that for more data to understand us better, or to be able to target us better for advertising, a la how Facebook does?
Definitely. That's got to definitely be a factor.
Yeah. Or to try and keep people time on site longer.
Mm-hmm.
So, Facebook is just kicking butt for time on site.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously the longer that you can hold people on site, the more engagement that you can get out of them, the more ads that you can present to them. And so that obviously could be a factor, and is going to probably be a factor depending on how they implement it. Again, it was funny because one of the things that I said when we were talking about this last week was, well, they're not putting they're not putting scopes right in line on Twitter because, that's a different type of content that people expect when they are on Twitter. And then this week they announce they are going to actually put scopes in line. And so I just think that Twitter's dancing a real fine line here of really messing up what the core reason that brings people into the platform. So I don't know. It'll be really interesting.
Facebook does the same thing along those lines, in the sense of there's so many things and certain things that so many people want and call for, but Facebook does its own thing. They just do their own thing. Like how many people were calling for Notes to be redesigned like Medium? No one said anything about that. And all of a sudden, that came out and people aren't really using it yet. I've used it a few times. I like it. I think I think it could help with Facebook in terms of if they're going to take those and give them some sort of EdgeRank algorithmic hierarchy. I could totally see that happening to get bloggers onto the site and get more content. But Twitter, you're right though. Twitter is not. They're not necessarily responding to the things that people want, like the verification thing. Everybody wants to know even how you get that. There's all kinds of speculation, right? And some people probably have a better idea than others. If you spend a certain amount in ad money, or obviously like celebrities and athletes automatically get it. NFL, they have an agreement with Twitter. They're like the official platform for the NFL. So, of course, all their players and teams get it. They would get it anyway. So there's some kind of ideas, but like Google's algorithm, there's not like a release. Here's how this works. Here's how you get this. Because I get that question all the time. I'm sure you guys do too. Like, how do I get verified on Twitter? How do I get? And Facebook's the same way now with their check mark. How do I get that? I don't know. I don't know exactly.
I have to say, like, I've worked with a number of the types of personalities you've mentioned and gotten a number of verified accounts, and it's quite a process. I think it really, there's lots of different, if you put it into a flow chart, there's a lot of different ways that somebody would get verified. There's ones where like it'll happen immediately, but then there's others where, it does take a little bit of time. In some instances I had them happen instantly, almost instantly, and then others took months to get. It's something you have to work at. And, as far as, I know they did away with that process a few years ago, and then they brought it back. So it's kind of one of those things where, like, they kind of don't know what direction they're headed, I guess. Or, sorry, we don't know what direction they're headed. But I think, honestly, that you can honestly say that for most of the social networks out there. We don't know what Facebook's doing. We don't know what Twitter's doing.
Right.
A lot of them are, they're doing something that to us on the surface doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it plays into, their long-term strategy, and that's the same also for pretty much most major corporations as well.
Right.
And every company is different. Like Apple, for instance, they love, they put their information out there, and, they're not stirring up rumors.
And I think that's good. I do want to respond to something that Walter said over here, which was Facebook is good for social media if you set up a separate business page and not share your blog content in the general public. Now, here's the problem with this, and there's different opinions, so this isn't going to be a right or a wrong. I'm just going to tell a tale of warning because I've been doing this since the late 90s. Is you then are chained to Facebook and or Twitter or whatever. You don't then own your property. So it's kind of like the hot dog sales guy that keeps wheeling his cart to the park every day. That's great, as long as the city does not create an ordinance that says that he can no longer sell in the park, then everything's fine. If while he is selling in the park, he hands out some cards that says, hey, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, come over to my business shop, to where I actually have a store. Then if he all of a sudden can't sell in the park anymore, people then know where to come find him. Yep. So you build a property and send traffic to that property that you own, and then you use other platforms, TV, radio, newspaper, I don't care what it is, but you use those other platforms like social media to bring people in. And it's funny that he says this because I partially think that time on site thing that I mentioned earlier, I think Twitter's trying to get people to link off less, to get more of content being consumed right there in line instead of always having people link off to a platform. And I just think it's going to backfire. I just don't think I don't think there's going to be enough conversion capability for me, like for my clients. I don't think that there's going to be enough CTA capability or extra content on the page to fulfill what they're trying to figure out to get that conversion, and I think it's going to backfire. That's my speculation.
I have to say something because Kevin, so that the whole idea of rented versus own, home, rent your home versus own your home, and rented land versus own land, that's absolutely the case and has been the case. And but that analogy is, I'm going to steal that, my friend, because that one is that's I think that illustrates it really well. And yeah, like you said, Facebook again in 2015, I forget what month it was. I think it was around the middle, maybe the summertime, when they came out with this whole thing about the algorithm is going to start reading time spent on a post.
Mm-hmm. And dwell time.
That is, I thought that was probably the most undercovered or underrated change that they made the whole year, because if they're truly doing that and your posts, if people are reading your full-on long-form posts on Facebook and they're measuring that and giving you hierarchy in the feed, that is huge. That's huge for exposure on Facebook, for if it's counting for pages in that sense too. Well, a brand, why would you not put a blog post in a Facebook post, a status update, assuming it's good content, of course, for someone to read, and now they're going to potentially see your posts higher up and all that. That would be enormous if that's actually what's happening. Now, that being said, I don't know if it's happening. The only person that I follow that really, there's two people that I follow that really do that sort of a thing. One of them is Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary throws up long posts, which are always good. At least for me, I enjoy him. But I also have him in my C first. On my C first. So now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to take him on my C first and see what happens, and if there's any kind of way to tell. But that hot dog thing was a great point.
So let me give you an example. People say Facebook is basically ratcheted back so that you cannot get in front of people unless you pay.
Organically,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is false. Okay. Now it is true that they're trying to push you that direction, yep. But here is the component, and I hate saying this because it gets oversaid way too often, is about the great quality content. Yes, you should make great quality content. I think we're all in agreement in that. The problem is we don't often do it.
Right.
So I'll give you an example of how this works. I always see Petapixels, which is a photography account. Okay.
Mhm.
I always see 3-4 posts from them every single day. Now, think about this for a second. The reason I see those every single day is because I've not artificially changed it, but as Robert Scoble keeps talking about is I have trained Facebook to understand that that's content that brings me into their platform. If I don't see Petapixel, I'm not going to log in to participate as frequently. Yes, I still will for my family and so forth and friends, but that is an extra reason I get it or go there. So they're going to show that content to me. So the reason that most people don't get that visibility is because their content and their engagement sucks. Another example is we used to help our local EHL hockey league team. Well, okay, now you have hockey fans.
Right.
I'll be real honest with you. We didn't have to do very much to get their visibility for them because people want to see if they won, if they weren't able to go to the game, they want to say hooray if they did and they were at the game. That's an easy one.
Yep.
But by gosh, they don't have to spend any money to get that visibility because it's awesome content that people want. So I know people don't like to hear that, but that is the truth. You really have to solve people's problems, answer their questions, evoke emotion, and if you can, some way, shape, or form, entertain them.
I can tell you this. I mean, and not to dwell too much. I know there's some other topics we want to get to, Christian.
Mm-hmm.
The company I work for is I work for corporate for a network marketing company. Network marketing, MLM. So we have almost 300,000 people out there that are passionate about our products, right, and the business. So we have the Facebook page, we have Twitter and all this. The Facebook page, certain things. I mean, the C-level will ask me, "Oh, how'd that announcement go on Facebook?" I'm like, "What? I mean, it blew up." Of course it blew up. It's an announcement from a home office, corporate about like a new product, and people go crazy. I mean, it's so easy to kind of predict, okay, this is going to go crazy, but it's not that even, maybe it's not the best content. It's just an announcement, company news that they're really interested in. They're so passionate about the company, they're gonna share it, which is great, in the comments. But even then, it's not always easy to tell why that thing blew up either.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely. And I can jump out at any time, guys. The 10,000 character thing was something I've been researching. I'm going to be talking about it on Social Chat if you guys are on the Twitters on Monday nights.
Monday night? What time?
Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
Social Chat's been going on for about 5 years now. Good group of people there, but I'm going to be talking about it there. And you guys were talking about it, and I was kind of interested what you guys I was listening to your take on it as well. But I think it's all going to be. I'm not excited about it, but I'm willing to say it's going to depend on the implementation. And how are they going to handle if you were in a Twitter chat and somebody responds with 9,050 characters, and then the next person responds with 7,000, and somebody, it kind of takes out that uniqueness of forcing people to be brief. And the other thing is that it was said that it was because they started to see an increase in people trapping images with longer form text, and that's actually how they made the announcement. And yet I have gone back through my feed through a lot of people that I follow, which aren't just internet marketing people. Right. And I have found very, very few instances of where people are doing that. So I just don't understand what the impetus is for this, but I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah. Good stuff, Kevin. Thanks for hopping in.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you very much. You're welcome to stay in. I mean, I'm just going to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the next subject?
Next topic actually is it peach? Let's see. Yes, it's peach. It says, let me actually get to my normal thing here. So we've got Peach. It's a new social network. I'm actually giving you guys a link to the app that's available. But what's kind of fascinating about this is, it's actually started by one of the co-founders of Vine. It's basically a way to, it's basically like, they want to make it easy to converse with friends and whatnot, like you're texting and whatnot. So there's some really neat pieces about this tool. Vincent, have you had a chance to try it out yet?
Yeah, I've been using it for about a week. I like the intuitiveness in the sense of, you start typing in even G in the message thing, and it fills in GIF, and then it shows you GIFs. So, yeah. I mean, right now it's another social media network, channel, app, whatever. A lot of marketers are jumping on it because it's the hot new thing. As people always call them, the new shiny object. I'm one of those people that will, as much as I can, try out the new thing, not implement it into any sort of plan or strategy right away. But I absolutely like to jump on and try new stuff. Like Blab, as soon as I heard about Blab, I was like on it and taken by it. I love Blab, but there's all these things it feels like are coming on now. Peach is fun, it can be fun, and it's fun if your friends are there, just like any other social media channel ever. Snapchat, I started on Snapchat 3 years ago, and I left it immediately because none of my friends were on there.
Yeah,
and then I picked it up this past year because now all my friends are on there. Mm-hmm. But Peach is the intuitiveness is I think the best part about it. I don't know about the whole UX, like the trying to read people's posts and things. It's a little
it's all like
clunky. Trying to get back and forth to different things and friends of friends. It's obviously needs more work and will develop more iterations. But it's interesting.
So I want to kind of get your take real quick on this. You talked about it's fun. Can you kind of expound on that a little bit, and then
the GIF thing, right? I'm putting GIFs over here in the comment. Right. As soon as I saw that you could put GIFs in the comments. I do that all the time because it's fun. It adds something to the conversation,
right?
For the most part, if you're having fun with it, it can add to the conversation in a sense. But even when it's asking you suggestions, the questions. There's 3 questions that will cycle every once in a while, and it'll ask you to answer this question. That type of stuff where it's spurring the conversation, it's spurring you to do fun conversation. It's not a place so far anyway. I don't see people getting political on it or really negative. It's more very lighthearted, which I think is apropos considering it's the name of it, and it's Peach, and it's just very light. It's like Facebook light in a way.
Okay. No, and I asked that because the one piece of advice I want to give everyone that's watching here is it's a new social network. Yes, it's got it's getting some traction because it's backed by the people that by the co-founder of Vine, which is pretty awesome. Except like you said, you kind of have to don't put all your eggs in one basket, basically. Sign up for it, browse around, see how it works, see if you actually have any, if there's any value for you as a business owner. At the moment you might look at it and say, well, hey, there's not really much business value here, but spend a little bit of time there and kind of, and start to think or imagine, hey, how could my business use this versus going into it with your blinders on saying, okay, great, another social network I got to learn with, I think that it is, I think that it could be useful down the road, but I think, again, it's going to be one of those things that's going to have to evolve. We've seen that with Blab. Blab started, and it was all about marketers, on here. And as more people have started to kind of get on here and use it, they've started to see a lot of value in it. So, I think it's, it's a good tool to start with, but don't put all your, don't make the full investment in it right now. Just,
Well, that's what everybody kind of harped on people on Blab for being so kind of passionate so thequely about it. And, because there's those two sides. There's people that use it and enjoy it all the time and love being on the platform. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of people that, and mostly certain marketers that are like, I'm not jumping in the newest fad and all this, and it's not even that it's the newest fad. Recognize it for what it is. The communication platform that it has the potential to be and already is to a point. And that's where I think people miss the point. They just think that we're just hopping on because it's new and we have to try all the new things out and it's live streaming.
And some people do.
Yes, some people do. Absolutely.
Some people do. Absolutely. And actually, it's funny because in this particular instance, I'm enjoying this because I'm usually the hemorrhaging edge adopter. I mean, forget bleeding edge. I'm hemorrhaging. If I follow, it's like seriously, like Product Hunt, Beta List, Startup List, you name it, and I am on those on a daily basis. I kind of have to be.
So you and Brian, you and Fanzo are
Brian and I, we chat all the time and we joke about it. Douglas Carr is another guy who's always on the front of it. He's in Indy. He's only like 2 hours away. I love Doug. We talk all the time. Ian McCleary, so we're testing that stuff. And you would not believe that when I seen Peach come through, I looked at it and there was something about it and I passed. And I joined everything and asked questions later, and I didn't. And I can't even articulate why. But I do know one thing. I have started to be more selective about networks when they only launch on one platform and they have no web component. So immediately, this is an iOS only playground. Now, obviously, there's success stories of people who have done that. Instagram is probably the most or the biggest success story that started completely on iOS and got out of that unscathed. But there are examples of ones who have shot themselves in the foot because you don't meet minimum viable adoption when half of your audience cannot play along.
So this is a good point, by the way. I'm going to 100% disagree with this because I think that there's a lot of companies that they started out and they said, oh, hey, we're launching on Android, we're launching on iOS, and you started to see a shift, especially last year, a lot. And most of and they're not doing it to kind of like to just support one audience. They're doing it because iOS has way more downloads than you get on Android, and somebody's able to put their product out there. They're able to drive exposure to it. I mean, you've got way more iOS users. And
no. Technically, that's not correct. There are, for certain types of apps, there is a much higher download rate for certain types of apps. And it used to be that iOS killed Android, but that's no longer the case. And you're going to get disagreement. So I understand your point. And for certain, especially if it's a paid app, you are probably best served by going for the iOS audience first. But when it is a networking or a social type of app where there is no pay structure, right, then you're immediately stopping the adoption phase, which sometimes you can survive, and sometimes you have to because of the expense of trying to do it for both platforms. But you are immediately telling me that I have to go get my Wi-Fi only iPad to participate. And then that means I'm not talking about it and telling other people about it and dragging people in.
So here's the thing. There's got to be a reason behind why they're doing this. I don't think it's necessarily because it's a paid app or, paid apps and free apps. I don't think that's the case because if you look at Facebook, for example, they launched Facebook Groups. It launched only on iOS. But
there's other features that launched first on Android. And Mark Zuckerberg has come out very publicly and said, he, a matter of fact, almost made it mandatory that people use Android. As a matter of fact, I think he did for a while there, where he said, if you are in app development, you are going to use Android because we're going to fix this because it can't be ignored anymore.
Well, right. But at the same time, but if you look at how Facebook has even launched most of their apps, at first it was, hey, it was just on Android. Then they started doing hey, it's on Android and iOS. Then they made the shift, and they did this last year quite a bit. It's only on iOS. And then, yes, they did come out with that statement about we want people to use Android, but that also I think was because, they did quite a number of studies on, I think, their own employees, and they weren't using Android devices. So if you're using iOS, and and I understand you need to support them, but if your employees are using iOS, you kind of still have, you kind of need to get them to use it because they do need to be able to support those or develop something, or learn why it doesn't work. But I don't think they necessarily did it for, I don't think they did it like maliciously. I think it was more, that's what their user base is interested in.
Oh, I'm not indicating at all that this is malicious at any point in time. Right. I'm simply stating is that when you are looking to get an explosion of adoption,
sure,
that now that explosion, you see less and less of where it is iOS only, because the actual amount of phone usage and deployment of the platforms has equaled out. Now, to your point, it is absolutely true that more people download more apps on iOS, and it is true that the dollar amount that they spend on apps is higher. But what I'm saying is we can't take that into consideration with Peach, because Peach isn't a paid app. So the reason for developing it first on iOS wouldn't have been because you're trying to get a higher return on your investment because it's not paid. You just need to get it in people's hands and get people excited about using it. And if half of the people that I'm connected to aren't going to be able to use it, then I'm less likely to immediately start being able to interact with people, which pulls you into it, keeps you in there longer. Has more fun, like Vincent is saying, and I think that's a problem.
I don't know exactly. I mean, it feels like this would be relevant to this conversation. I'm not exactly sure how, but you guys are going to tell me, I'm sure, which is what I'm hoping for. So Facebook-owned Instagram is about to, or is currently working on, the ability to switch between Instagram accounts only on Android. And so how does that factor into the discussion?
They're testing it only on Android.
Right.
Yeah. So again, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Oh, Christian.
Yeah. To Christian's point, just because they elected to test it there first, really doesn't mean that it's not going to be a usable feature at some other point. I thought it was kind of interesting that they chose to test it first on Android. I'm sure that there is some statistics, some analytics behind that. One of those might be the fact that for the longest time, we've suggested to clients, look, go out and buy a used Android phone or a cheap tablet, which you can get all day long for your company's usage, because you can't do it through a computer. Well, you can't. You used to be able to do it through Arc Welder and some back end type stuff. But anyway, that's a different thing. So we would tell clients, look, go spend $100 and get a cheap tablet so that your company can have a dedicated device purely for Instagram. So maybe they're looking at that statistic and that's why they chose Android first. That's pure speculation on my part. But I do know that that people are very interested, like I am, in being able to manage multiple accounts from both devices. It doesn't matter to me.
And, here's the thing. I don't know what the purpose is behind why they're doing, why are some of these apps, why are they launching just on one platform versus, why are they on iOS first versus Android? Why are some things launching on Android and then iOS? The one thing I have seen a lot of is, instead of most companies launching just on one or on both platforms at the same time, most are starting to pick one and go with it. I don't know. Is that because there's certain technology in the device that they want to take advantage of? Is there something else that, we just don't know about? Maybe they have some sort of, agreement with the company to how they're going to, implement certain things. I don't know. personally, I mean, I don't really care if they launch on iOS or Android first. I'm mostly an iOS user, or I am an iOS user. But you make a good point. Yes, if you want to get, if you're Peach and you want to get market share, you are going to have to launch on both platforms because you're cutting out that huge audience. But
yeah, and to answer your question, Christian, the reason that a lot of people do it is because of cost of development. So if you're going to develop for both platforms initially, the cost for development is significant. I mean, we are actually a development house here, although we don't do a lot of mobile applications. We're actually a development house, and if you're going to roll out to 2 different platforms, there are some tools that you can use, and depending on the complexity of the app that you're creating, kind of determines how much more cost. And you actually bring up another great point, which is the functionality. So literally, there are some things that you can do on an Android device because of the sensors you can get a hold of and access that you cannot do on an iOS device, and vice versa. So sometimes those will dictate that. But quite frequently, some of it is either going to be cost or the developers that you get. So, for example, a lot of times we will find that somebody will go to iOS simply because they're very, very, very concerned about the look and the feel, and that trends to go towards the iOS side. If it's a down and dirty and a marketing objective, it really doesn't matter. And definitely, if there's a cost associated with that platform, if they're going to charge people for the app, then it definitely trends towards the iOS side.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, it's very interesting. I think there's a lot of the topics we're talking about today. There are, I think we've all come to the same conclusion, which is, we don't know what the social network is doing. We don't know what the app maker is doing. Why they're launching things a certain way, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of hard facts, I guess, to kind of justify why is this app maker only launching on iOS or Android? Why is Facebook launching this feature or Twitter launching this feature? So it's been a very, very interesting conversation today. So.
In terms of just last thing about Peach, I was going to say is that it's, I mean, how new is it? When did it launch? Literally, it was like a week ago.
A week and some change ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny how it felt like this started really last year with the live streaming apps with Meerkat, where the conversation around these among marketers anyway, and social media types like us, digital heads and all that, like the conversation really is going hyperspeed at this point.
Oh, yeah.
When something new comes out, it's like within a week, everyone knows about it in industry wise and has passed judgment, and it's good or bad, and I'm done with it, or I'm all in, or I mean, it's really funny how fast people are making the judgments, and maybe not for their business per se, but just even on a personal level, like I like it or I don't like it, and not saying that they won't go back to it or get off of it. Like Kevin, was in it and kind of didn't really want to go further, or did you not check it out at all, Kevin? Did you totally pass, or did you?
I literally passed, which
totally.
I like never do. Seriously, like Ello came out, I was on it. Feed, PHEED, I was on it. I went live from my cell phone with a live streaming app called Bambuser 6 years ago. So I mean, again, I usually test everything and then ask questions later. And for whatever reason, there are some where you look at it and you say, and not to be punny, but this is going to die on the vine.
Yeah,
and I could be totally wrong on this one. But after you've tested so many apps over the years, you try to really look at it and say, what functionality or what engagement or what feature is this bringing that I'm currently not getting elsewise? And occasionally it evolves into something that it wasn't originally. And kind of like you said with Snapchat, man, when I first got on Snapchat, I'm like, I don't really care whether somebody sees it for 10 seconds
Yeah.
or 10 hours or 10 weeks. It doesn't matter to me. But I get why some people are using it. And then they got past the whole, using it for nefarious purpose reasons.
Yeah.
And it evolved into something. And so I'm sitting on the couch over Christmas, and I hear my daughter talking to my niece about Snapchat while I'm on my phone Snapchatting. And I'm just like, okay, she never cares about anything social media. And I overhear her talking about Snapchat.
Yeah.
It's come around.
It's communication. It's not even, it's the functionality, like you said. So yeah, we'll see. I like, it's a week 2 old, 2 weeks old, and we'll see where it goes.
I'll go check it out.
It's almost in a way, it's like Snapchat on a little bit of steroids, a little bit, but it's not as fluid, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I don't compare it to Snapchat at all yet. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm kind of on it, checking it out. But other than that, I'm not spending really any time on it.
Right. And I will add something to real quick to something that was said earlier. And that is one thing that people do need to recognize. And I talk to clients about this all the time, is when a platform first starts out, there is an opportunity cost lost if you don't jump on early. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the relationships that I've fostered over the years was because when there's less people on the platform, you can get visibility with those people that are new to that platform and kind of stake out some territory there. And that is not just for people who are internet experts only.
Right.
You could be the first photographer that gets in there. You could be the first real estate agent person that uses it well. You could be the first multi-level marketer that gets on there and uses it well. Yeah. But if you wait too long, then it just becomes, you're just another person in that mix. And because it's always about relationships, you should be trying to go in there for the relationship reasons in the first place and the sale second.
Yep.
So, hey, it's been great, guys. Thank you for letting me babble.
Thanks, Kevin.
And look forward to seeing you guys in other blabs.
Awesome.
Thanks. Absolutely.
So topic number 3 here, brother. I'm just we got our last topic here, and then just a couple of tools here to share with everyone. It's a new tool called Facebook Canvas, and in a nutshell, basically, it's a way to create an experience on Facebook for your business to kind of tell your story and to showcase your products. It's something right now that you have to get on a wait list for. So, I got on this early in the week. Again, it's another tool. There's a lot of major brands that look like they're using this to kind of give you some immersive experiences. So for example, if I'm, if I'm Wendy's or I'm Carnival Cruise or Universal Orlando, BMW, those are just some of the brands that are already using Facebook Canvas. Pretty neat little tool. I haven't had a chance to try this out. Vincent, do you know anybody that's actually using this?
No, I honestly hadn't heard about it until you told me before the show. And I was looking at their website. I kind of have an idea of how it works from that, mm-hmm. but not entirely. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit more from what you thought you saw that it's going to do?
Basically, it's going to, remember the Facebook 360 videos that were all
yeah.
Okay. So it's going to be a way for you to basically create, to take some photos, to take some videos and whatnot, and to mesh them together and to create basically a story. And in a way, I almost see it like creating almost like a landing page for a product, where you can be very targeted on what it is you're trying to market or sell somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Mm-hmm. Since I haven't had a chance to really play with it, I kind of can only go off of.
Could you kind of tell, how would I get there? How would I get to a canvas or one of these landing pages?
Well, I believe they're going to be in your news feed. At the moment, they'll show your news feed like a normal post. And when somebody goes there, they'll be able to scroll through whatever it is. So, for example, if you look at the video that's actually towards the bottom of their Facebook Canvas page, an ad for Target. And it's basically they're showing you a feed, something in your Facebook news feed like a normal post. Somebody clicks on it, they see a box, and then basically going back through that box, almost like it's getting packed or something. And kind of going through some products that are available possibly in that box. So I think it's, again, I think it's a way for people to just really, I think it'd be a way for them to market, an experience, that somebody could possibly tap into. I could see this, here's the thing, when I looked at the brands that were listed, there's a number of them that look like they are really geared towards something like this, like a BMW. Like I could,
well, and Target and Wendy's are, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like, hey, if it's BMW, I could jump into like the car, or if they've got like a new motorcycle, or something new coming out, like maybe they could give me an immersive experience in that instead of actually going through and just reading their content or something to that effect. So that's one thing that I could see happening with it. Again, I don't have a lot to go off of here, but it's something that, if you are a business and you work for, like, say, a major brand, might be something you want to consider signing up for, so you can actually have some time to, play around with it. Like I said, it lets you include, images. You can include videos. Remember those 360 videos where, like, you could tilt your phone and whatnot? That's also available within this as well. So that way, it's almost like it's taking the 360 videos and putting them into one big package, letting you use them. So that's our third topic for today, by the way. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, not that one. I signed up for the wait list and for Social Media Club Phoenix, but we'll see.
And by the way, knowing how long it takes to kind of get on some of these things, like I'm still on the wait list for the new Facebook page layout from like 5 years ago. So, I kind of just gave up on that one. So that so it is what it is. But I would recommend, if you're a major brand, jump on there, give it a try. Jump on the wait list. You do have to apply for it, and then once you do that, give it a try and see how it might work for your brand. I can see tons of potential with this. It just really comes down to what brand is going to be using it. So by the way, you still got a couple minutes here to chat about a couple of tools.
I do.
Okay. Awesome.
Especially, we already talked about one of them, and then this one, the first one you're going to bring up on.
Yes. I'm actually going to put it in reverse order. So, we talked about Peach. So, tool number one for today was Peach. I'm going to give you guys a link to go download that from the iOS, from the App Store. And again, free download. Our recommendation is to give it a try. It's not something that it's not something that's going to be for everybody, but it might be worth at least getting on there and seeing how it works for you. And that way you can kind of experience it and start to kind of brainstorm different ideas. Just because the tool does one thing when you log in doesn't mean that that's the way that you'll need to use it for your business that you're working with. You may want to you may go on there and say, hey, there's not a lot of businesses, but you're already signed up. You can already get the lay of the land, and then you may start to see other businesses join it. And so, that's a good time for you to revisit it. If you don't, no skin off your back. You delete your account. Big deal. So tool number two, by the way, is a tool I sort of talked about last week, but I talked about it in a different perspective. It's called Q. And this one, though, is called Q Promote. So Q is a way to sign up and have curated content and suggestions for your social media channels for Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and it tied into Buffer extremely well. So that was the tool last week. This week, though, they have a promote feature I was checking out. And this is a way for you to get your articles shared, basically to have your articles that you submit included in that content. And it's kind of neat. You can basically go on here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. You can pay a couple dollars and whatnot for it. There's some tiered pricing for different categories and offering different reach. In a way, you're advertising. But you can go on, you can select, hey, I've got I'm in business management or coding or, a SaaS service or something to that effect. I could pay $5 to get up to 15,000 plus reach. Pretty neat little tool. I think it's worth, if you want to put a couple of dollars behind it, I mean, it's pretty inexpensive, to kind of test it out. When you get into, you start to look through the different tiers. This is the interesting part. Tier 1 is basically, big data, crowdfunding, photography, science, so really, really broad topics. It's $2. Tier 2 for 15,000 plus reach. You get into branding, business management, coding, SaaS, and so forth. And if you get into tier 3 categories, 30,000 plus reach, it's $15. That's when you get into things like business strategy, content marketing, social media, startups, tech. So basically a lot of, the hot places that people want to be. So I would recommend, again, maybe putting a couple dollars behind some of your content if you want to try to get a little more exposure for you, and and kind of give it a try. Have you used any of these tools, Vincent?
Q, I've kind of checked out a little bit. It's it seems like it would be helpful with. I mean, I already use the feeds in my buffer.
Sure.
In my buffer, I fill. For all the accounts I manage in Buffer, I have the kind of appropriate websites and RSS feeds in there. So I use that pretty heavily as much as I can, even though it's the way it works. The UX is not ideal. Right. Even on the app, it's weird. It takes a while to load an article. This is just the regular feed in Buffer. It takes a while to load the article. When you hit the button to you want to post that one, it takes its time, and then after you do it, it goes through. It resets back to, I don't know, a few back, and you have to scroll up and down. So just that type of stuff. When I was on the desktop on Q, it almost was even doing that to an extent too. When I was selecting the categories,
right?
It was doing that. So just a little thing like that. Time-wise is kind of annoying, but it looks like it could potentially be helpful. Anything that helps curate the content.
Yeah.
And if you're managing more than a couple accounts, if you're a brand manager, a community manager, and managing a bunch of different accounts, then absolutely anything that helps in that effort to curate the content, if it's doing it well, is going to be worth it.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a great point, whatever you can do to help, bring that content to you, whether that is, setting up some sort of automation tool, or having a way to, push out some of your content. Again, don't look at it from a cost perspective, look at it from an opportunity perspective.
Right.
So with that, by the way, I've got one last tool for everybody. And, this is a tool that comes up. I get a lot of people asking me, about blogging. They're asking me, well, hey, how do you, how do you manage your blog? How do you run your blog? And the tool that I've actually used, it's called Byword. It is a markdown editor. I'm not opening Microsoft Word, not opening Notepad, not opening Google Docs, text edit, any of those kinds of tools. I'm using Byword, and I use it two ways. I use the iOS app and the Mac app. Basically, what happens is I can just freely write my blog post out, or my social media post, or whatever. I can use certain code, certain codes basically to insert hyperlinks and so forth. And then it just lets me copy the HTML. I don't have to format anything. And I can just basically export it either right to WordPress, or, if it's for a social media post, I can just save the document. The thing though that this tool has actually really helped me with is that I can work on my desktop, and then I can go be on my mobile device, and I don't have to worry about, well, I need to format that post or whatnot. I basically just write the post, put my ideas down. I start writing a little bit here, a little bit there, and by the end of the day, or by the end of the week, I've got a number of posts written. So I would recommend checking that out. Mac Journal, actually, a very good question. What's your name? Make me a harp. Christy. So I have not actually. I would say I like how easy Byword is to use. I've experimented with quite a number of, with writing apps, and I mean, Mac Journal, it's a pretty good tool. It's just, I like the other tool just because I think it works a little bit easier. I do like that, Mac Journal is, a little more comprehensive, but, basically you're removing all the clutter by using a Markdown app. That's the benefit. Vincent, do you use anything when you do any writing or?
Well, I mean, I do. I don't personally. Shocking. I don't have a Mac. My wife does, but I'll be getting one soon. So that one specifically, I'm not super aware of. I don't use anything like any specific tools outside of the, when I'm blogging on WordPress or on any of the LinkedIn Publisher, Facebook Notes, or Medium. I mean, as far as tools go, nothing really specific.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, again, there's so many tools out there. Chrissy's she uses Mac Journal's feature. It's got some really good organizational functionality to it. Very, very, very handy. From a cost perspective, I mean, I went with the other one because the other tool was, it was like $20 maybe for both of the apps. For me, that really does the job. Helps me get things done. Everyone else has a similar system of how they do things. I would recommend trying some of them out, kind of figuring out what works for you. And by the way, I love hearing about new tools, and I know Vincent, you're always telling me like, hey, like every time you come on, you always have a new tool for the week, and I like tools. I think if they can help me, if they can help you get the job done, if it can improve, the speed at which you write something, do it. So,
absolutely.
Yes, I was looking at Christy here. She said some, hey, she spent $40 on the app, and she basically would have to find something that's free. She's not going to spend more money. So, good point. Test out some of the apps, but hey, that's an app I've been using. I've been using it for a few years here. Works great. So with that, by the way, just want to let everybody know about next week's episode. You can subscribe to next week's episode. I'm going to drop the link in here unless you have it handy, Vincent.
I'll let you post it.
Okay, so you can subscribe to next week's Blab by simply going to socialchefs.com/blab-19. And, in addition to that, if you do want to get on our email list, you can text Social Chatter to 33444. Basically, what will happen is you'll get on our list. I will send you an email a few hours before the show, along with a list of the topics that we're going to be discussing, and also give you a link to basically not just this recording, but a complete write-up of this episode. So it'll have, the video, you'll have all the links that we talked about, the topics and so forth. So that way you can share it and whatnot. So with that, do you have anything you want to add, Vincent?
No, I'm good. That was good stuff. Good stuff. I'm glad Kevin jumped in.
Absolutely. We had a lot of discussions, and like I said, we always try to keep these to 30 minutes. Today we went a little bit over. Again, when you bring people on, you start discussions. I mean, you never know where those are going to go. And this one, it was a great discussion. So with that, I want to wish everybody, hope everybody has a great weekend. Christy and Vincent, everybody, thanks so much for joining. And we will see you on next week's Blab. Thanks everyone.
Guys.